Good morning,
Good afternoon.
good evening, wherever you are on this amazing planet that we happen to live upon.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
The theme today is night loops.
Well, what about day loops? What about morning loops? What about any of those loops that you get caught in where you are worrying about something about a future that hasn't gotten here yet, as though it's a reality, and yet it's not. And you waste this moment worrying about something that doesn't exist, except as a thought.
Or you're reworking, going over something that happened.
Oh, I should have said that.
What if maybe, and if I hadn't, and I should
If I
have,
only,
yes. I just gotta, what was that movie? Was it?
which one are you talking about?
There was one of these movies like Back to the Future where they're like, or phenomena where he goes back and he tells his friend, just remember
Oh,
this
Yahoo.
Yahoo.
That was phenomenal.
And then the guy then gets to invest in it because he likes the name. Unfortunately, none of us have those things that come back in time to tell us how to do our lives over. So this is the possibility of being here.
You know,
Hmm?
when you think about it,
Uh-oh.
you spend most of your life
Thinking about
it.
it. In case you're not familiar with our style, we do finish each other's sentences and sometimes simul-speak.
Yeah, look, it's okay to have fun with your life. I know there are horrible things happening all over our planet, you know?
But
It's,
you being miserable is not going to help those situations get better.
that's right. But if you are really present in your life, you will make a difference in the lives of the people you interact with. And then your life becomes meaningful, rather than purposeless.
I know we speak about this time and time again, but really today, listening is key. You know, your actual senses are key to supporting you in stepping out of repetitive thoughts or loops.
Well, supporting you into experiencing your life, being here for your life, rather than thinking about what you could have, should have, would have done.
Or what you should do in the future.
That's right.
What if things are obvious when you're here?
That is so cool because, we often talk about the difference between choice and decisions. And, we make decisions about how we're going to be in the future or not be in the future, a way that we're going to either be or not be, based on what happened in our past that we resisted, that we didn't like, didn't want. So if you are one of those people who are dating and you had a date with somebody that didn't turn out too good, you might make a decision, well, I'm never going out with somebody like that again.
Oh.
Or I'm never going out again, depending on how bad it went.
I'm never dating an actor again, or forget anybody who's blonde,
or those people who work for the Department of Sanitation. I'm not going out with them anymore. In any event, decisions are these declarations about how you're going to be going forward in time in some futuristic future. But you see, in each moment, you have a choice. You have the choice to choose what you have in the current moment of your life. That is your choice. If you choose what you have, it can evolve into a new moment. If you resist what you have, you get stuck with what you say you don't like, and your life becomes a complaint about your life. So that's normal, I guess, for a lot of people. Anyway, we're giving you an option. The option is to discover the moment. And how you discover the moment is through listening, not to see if you already know what we're talking about, but to discover the nuances of what we're talking about, to discover the newness of each moment of your life, as if it's not same old, same old. I mean, today I tied some fishing flies for a trip we're going to be taking. And it's kind of a repetitive process where you put one ingredient. It's interesting because fishing flies, they call them recipes for the things that go into it, onto it. You put one thing on and you with thread and you tie it on and you put another thing on and nothing. And pretty soon you got this fishing fly. They're apparently the same, but each time I make one, it's a different process, even though I'm doing the same thing. It's never the same. I have to adjust for certain the thickness of the thread or who knows what.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of the very first times we went fly fishing for Atlantic salmon, and it's catch and release, and we were up on the Miramichi, and you'd done two identical flies, apparently blue
Right.
charms,
Right.
and there was a limit. You could catch and release 10. Nobody ever did that except for I stood there in one place and I caught and released 10. Shai had an identical fly on and he'd done a couple, and we were doing basically the same thing. And I said, Shai, take my rod. There has to be something different about this fly, even though he tied them both, even though they were the same pattern,
But
same recipe.
one was sparser than the other. And the sparser one, by sparser, I mean had less materials on it.
And if anything, looked more bedraggled, or like, who would want that? Then Shai immediately caught his limit as well. And then we went back to the lodge, and it was very fun to have felt so successful. So as you say that, I can see how, whilst it's the same, it's never the
It's
same.
never the same. Everything, if you're here for your life, it's never boring. But if you're lost in a complaint about your life, like it isn't evolving the way you think it ought to, well, then it's forever boring.
Now, I got to say something. From time to time, you get caught in a complaint or you get caught in a conversation, and it keeps replaying, and it feels like you can't get out of it. Today, we're going to keep playing around with talking about this, because the idea that the loop is never ending, well, maybe it is, but that doesn't mean you have to engage in that loop. So
That's
we're
right.
going to be
That's very cool.
We have a couple guests today. We're going to keep investigating this conversation. I know we've each, Shia and myself, from time to time have had, circular thoughts about things that we're resisting or planning. Even sometimes you have a disturbing dream and then it replays. So it's fine. We're going to keep playing with this today. Let's see where it leads us. Let's take our first guest.
Christian, where are you calling in from, Christian?
And welcome to being here.
Hey guys, I'm Christian and I'm calling in from Basel, Switzerland.
So
Excellent.
nice to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. So nice to have you. See you.
Excellent.
That's a very fun topic. The night loops. I have like 3 night loops. So when I lay in bed, it happens a few times a week that I lay in bed and can't fall asleep, and then in my head it's thinking and thinking. It's like on a carousel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love just like close my eyes and fall asleep.
Well, you tell yourself you'd love that.
Huh.
When I can't fall asleep,
Yes.
I'm actively engaged in whatever I'm engaged in. And I may have the thought I'd like to go to sleep, but I know when I'm ready to sleep, I fall asleep. I play solitaire on my iPad when I can't fall asleep.
Okay.
And then the iPad falls out of my hand.
But I do it a different way. I tend to read on my iPad, and I often can tell I've no longer talking about fall asleep, but I'm actually asleep when I look up and my iPad is black. It's no longer powered because I've stayed on the same page for so long, I fell asleep without knowing it.
Okay, cool.
So, but there are times when I have the idea I'd like to sleep, Christian, and I find that, and particularly because our cat will wake us up in the middle of the night because she likes to play or she likes to be fed, or she likes us to go into her food room and reassure her she has food. She has this whole different night tempo. And then when I come back to bed, and there are times where I'm actually thoroughly awake. So I can either complain to myself that I'm not sleeping or recognize that if I just let myself be restful, that's perfection. That sleep happens when sleep is needed.
Mm,
And
that's
if you resist the fact that you are not asleep,
That will keep you awake.
yeah. I just realized that when you were talking about that, I am resisting sleep. So, no, I'm resisting not falling asleep. So it's a loop.
but I have a question.
Yes.
When you were a kid, did you ever fight to stay awake?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Well, how do you know that this not falling asleep isn't just more of that fight to stay awake?
like the earlier dictate from little Christian is going, no, you can't go to sleep because big people stay awake late.
This is very interesting. Yes, I can see it. Yeah. It's like when we had guests at home, or like for New Year's, for example. When you were young, and no, I want to stay up. I want to stay up. No, and then you were gone.
Well, maybe you should fight to stay awake and see what happens.
That's interesting. Why not? Yes.
But better still is not to treat it as a problem.
So better still, what?
Is not to treat
Laying there,
not sleeping as a problem.
Oh.
What if it's just a fact?
Cool.
See, look, we have ideas of what would be better.
Yeah.
And if you're not sleeping, you have the idea it would be better if you were sleeping.
Yes.
But if you sleep a lot, you'd have a better idea if you were
think you
less
should
sleepy.
be more awake.
Yes.
You cannot satisfy the mind, Christian. You just can't.
Right.
Yes. Yes. It became very obvious.
The other thing is, I often think it's funny if I'm laying there at night and I think I should be sleeping, yet I've had a lot of coffee during the day.
Oh.
What I do and how I go about my day often informs how I go about my night.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, cool.
Are you a coffee or tea drinker with caffeine?
I can't deal well with caffeine, so I do tea.
Is it caffeinated tea or herbal tea?
It's black tea.
Black tea is caffeinated tea.
Some black teas have more caffeine than coffee.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
So
Oh.
You just handled your sleeplessness.
sometimes I think you just got to look at what you're doing as opposed, oh, look, I had 5, 7, 8 cups of tea today.
Yes.
I do have to pee. I'm very alert now. Yeah.
So funny. Yes. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's really a treat to be with you today.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah.
Likewise. Thank you.
Our listeners don't actually get to visually see you, but they can hear.
But he's very handsome.
Yes, he's very handsome. And you can hear what a sweet and fun person he is just from the quality of his voice and his laugh. So there you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, it's time for the listener feedback spotlight.
It's where we get to hear from people in this amazing listenership and transformation community talking about what's happening in their lives.
Hi, this is Corinne in Glarus, Switzerland. And I've just called into a Being Here show, like podcast these days. And it's amazing. Transformation is amazing. It's like life-changing and it's fun and you need to experience it. So listen to the show or maybe call into the show because it's fun.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Aaron & Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have some Living Made Easy 2-hour seminars coming up this Saturday, next Monday. If you are listening to this, not in the archive, but on the day it's released, today is the early registration discount deadline for Costa Rica 2025. If you are coming,
Save some money.
Register today.
Register and get a third of your deposit.
Pass it in today and yeah, you'll get a substantial discount. It's kind of cool. Our weekends that are coming up, we first have a virtual one in June.
Magical relationships.
Yeah, June 8 to 9.
Right.
Hint, hint, the relationship with yourself comes first. Just saying. And then creativity and intuition. It's in person. It's at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can find out all of these on our website.
transformationmadeeasy.com.
And while you're there, you may as well, if you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter. It makes it easier. All the information comes to you and you don't have to go looking for it. All right, let's take our next guest.
Pam.
Welcome to being here. Where are you zooming in from?
Hi, I am in Brooklyn, New York.
Do you like to go by Pam or Pamela?
Pam is great.
Awesome. What can we do for you?
Well, I love this topic of night loops. And, you know, ironically enough, or just funny listening to Christian who spoke earlier, he can't fall asleep. I have no problem falling asleep. My head hits the pillow, I'm out. But what I've been finding is in the last maybe 6 to 9 months, somewhere around 3 a.m., I wake up and I could be up until morning and not go back to sleep. Sometimes it's an hour and I go back to sleep. But as soon as I open my eyes, my mind starts running all of the to-dos that I either didn't handle from the day before or what's coming up in my schedule for the next day.
You know, Pamela, that's kept you successful. See?
Okay.
Really, if you look at what you're doing, you're making sure that everything gets done, nothing slips through the cracks. So
you're not only a responsible person and manager in business at a pretty high-powered job that includes a lot of travel.
You have 3 children, you have a husband.
You have a full life.
Yes. You have a dog. I mean, you know.
I do.
So there are things to manage.
I do know that for myself. One of the things, because I have lots of specific details, I don't want to fall through the cracks. Sometimes, Pamela, I keep near me a little notepad that I can write down things, because once they're out of my head, I always attend to those things. I don't put them down and then say, ha, they're handled. It's like,
It's an interim handling.
I don't have to keep it in my mental computer because it's already handled.
Well, you know, what slows your hard drive down is clutter. And if you keep adding things to remember, that adds clutter to I must remember this, then I must remember this again. And pretty soon you're remembering the same things over and over.
Yes.
If you were to write them down in a place where you know where they are, then you can relax. Maybe
Oh,
fall back asleep.
yes. I love that because I have told myself that I don't have a to-do list because I have it handled, but that's not actually true. The to-do list lives in my head and often comes out on repeat to Dave, my husband, which he doesn't always love either.
Well, the other thing too is sometimes I find it restful to write the things down before my head hits the pillow, to use your thing.
Oh,
Then I'm
yeah.
not bugged by it, particularly when I'm on deadline for things, which happens like when we're preparing to go away, or we're in the final stages for Costa Rica, and there are lots of different details. I write it down before. I mean, might be easier for you to make a text list to yourself or electronic one, but I sometimes find the act of writing on paper, I have thoughts that crystallize between the letters as I'm actually doing things in longhand. It's a very interesting, fun thing.
That is very cool. It never even occurred to me to get it out of my mind. Like, because that,
Really? I'm
yeah,
kind of surprised that you say that because, you clutter your mind with what you think about, and your mind repeats itself all the time anyway. So you keep telling yourself you have to do the same things over and over again. And if you write it down, well, and you know where it is, then you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah,
yes.
it's interesting too. I have legal pads. I like to write things on legal pads. I had a friend who gave me something she made for me. It's a thing called Living Made Easy. It's actually a little. I got this
Notebook.
from our friend Colleen. Shout out to you, Colleen. And I write things in it, and then I don't tend to rip the pages out. I just move on to the next thing. So I'm really clear that I'm not dropping anything. And I also in here, because I just held it up, like if I get a creative idea, like I can't remember where I was. I think we were actually on vacation after Costa Rica this year. And I was in the car ride on the way to the airport, and I kept having these ideas for the Being Here podcast. So Night Loops might have even been one of them. So I just jot it down, and then when I'm ready to transfer it into a meaningful, usable format, like for this podcast, I do it, but I have it somewhere. So I don't have to have my mind cluttered, as you were saying, Shaya. I know it's old school. You're used to being really I'm sure some people do it electronically, but for me, I find that fun. And colored pens, I gotta say, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm ready now for purple, or let's do this in blue,
I love that. It's funny you mentioned colored pens. So I used to have handwritten notes where I would take all of my notes for work or for personal stuff. And I had, I don't know if you remember these. I had them when I was a kid. There were these pens that had 4 different color, clickers on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved writing down those notes with different colors, but I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I know you've got sophisticated.
It's kind of like Christian. He's no longer trying to stay awake, but it's like sometimes we discard things that are fun for us that are actually supportive. It's okay to be a kid again and write in your diary at night. Tomorrow I have to get dog food for our dog.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And I'll tell you something. Sometimes at night, I've discovered I will have a conversation with myself about something that I don't have all the information for yet. I don't know how better to say that. Like, for instance occasionally where like what course do we want to do in January? Well, I don't know yet. And I haven't spoken to people about their interest level. I haven't even spoken to Shine. It's way before, but it's in there and it's playing. And sometimes I just lay there and let it sort itself out. It's like reading a book. It's like entertainment. It doesn't mean anything. It's just something that's running through until it's done. And then I go back to sleep.
Yeah, that resonates, because oftentimes the things that come up in my mind are not the immediates either. It's the something somewhere in the distance.
And it's enough in the distance that you don't have all the information yet to make a meaningful choice about, like, where do I want my son to go to high school or college? And you don't even know his interests yet. So you can't really pick something, but it runs in there and it's like, oh, okay, interesting. This is queuing up.
Yes. I love this. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love seeing how bright you are. It's like, this is what we were talking with Christian about, where this is no longer held as a problem. It's like an exploration of Pamela. And I guarantee you, the nights that you're up at 3 and you don't go back to sleep, you may not need that sleep. My mom used to always be up at 3, 4 in the morning. That was her like magic hour. She loved being up at 3 and 4. It's not my rhythm. It's not my style. I don't enjoy it. But for her, it was like, I can make pies. I can be by myself. I could watch, my iPad or television. I could, I can clean the something or other. It was her time in a busy household with children and other thing that was quiet and by herself, and she loved it.
Yeah.
So what if there's nothing wrong?
Yes. Yes, I am on board with that.
Nice. That's nice. Fun being with you today.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Really.
thank you.
Well, you can subscribe to this podcast if you aren't already and share with your friends. And again, our newsletter is awesome, so feel free to partake. You can find all our courses and the newsletter sign-up link at transformationmadeeasy.com. And you can subscribe to our podcast on any of your favorite platforms. Next week's episode.
A mystical excuse to be grateful.
Why not? All right, we'll be back next week.
Mystical.
Mystical, 11/11.
11/11.
That's right.
Okay.
We'll be back next week.
So come on back.
And don't miss being here.